My sister sold my car behind my back using forged papers, then blamed me when the police showed up. The worst part? My own mother sided with her. That's when I snapped. It was supposed to be a celebration. A family reunion, 30 people crammed around folding tables by the lake house, strawberry shortcake being passed out while my mom told one of her long-winded stories about dad. Laughter, clinking forks, that lazy hum of summer nights. And then, like a grenade tossed into the middle of it all, my niece Madison piped up. Loud enough for every cousin, aunt, and in-law to hear, she announced, "Mom says you never give back to this family." The table went still. Forks hovered midair. My boys looked at me, wide-eyed, waiting to see if I'd explode. Greg's hand froze halfway to his glass. Even my mom, who never shuts up during a story, suddenly went quiet. And Erica, my sister, Madison's mother, just kept sipping her drink, eyes down, like none of this had anything to do with her. And me? I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because, in that exact moment, I stopped caring what they thought. So I leaned forward and said, calmly but loud enough for every ear at that table, "Perfect. Then she won't miss the $5,200 I cover for her mortgage every month." You could hear the air change. A couple people actually clapped, awkward, nervous claps, like they couldn't believe I finally said it out loud. Erica went pale, her drink sloshing in her glass. Madison blinked, clearly not understanding. And Greg? He stood, raised his glass, and said, "Maybe it's time we told the rest." So I did. I laid it all out, one piece at a time. The SUV Erica drives? It isn't hers. It's mine. The title's in my name, the insurance comes out of my pocket, because she couldn't get approved on her own. The lights that stayed on when her power was about to be cut? That was me, quietly paying the bill. Madison's sophomore year tutoring when she was about to flunk out? Paid by me. The Christmas gifts under their tree labeled from Santa? Also me and Greg, dipping into our savings while Erica pretended it was her doing. I wasn't bragging. I wasn't screaming. I was just done. Done hiding it. Done being quiet while they painted me as selfish. Greg leaned over, his voice low but steady. "We're done helping them, right?" I didn't hesitate. "Yep. Starting today." And just like that, the gravy train screeched to a halt. Erica knew it. Madison knew it. And judging by the way a few relatives suddenly started gathering their things, everyone else knew the atmosphere had shifted for good. Aunt Brenda tried to save face by rushing around with dessert plates like she was auditioning for a catering gig. Erica stayed silent, her eyes burning holes into the tablecloth. Madison retreated into her phone, fingers flying, probably sending out some snarky play-by-play to her friends. I didn't care. When it was finally over, Greg and I loaded the boys into the car. The first 10 minutes of the drive were silent. Heavy. Then Jesse, my oldest, leaned forward and asked softly, "Mom, are you okay?" I looked at him in the rearview mirror and said the truth, better than okay. And for once, I meant it. That night, while everyone else was winding down, I went straight into the home office. Pulled out the folder with all the automatic payments tied to Erica's mortgage. 4 days until the next one. I clicked cancel. Just like that. I turned to Greg and said, "That's going to hit her fast." He didn't even look up from his tablet. Just smiled, slow and satisfied, and said, "Good." And that was only the beginning. The very next morning, I picked up the phone and called the insurance company. Calm, steady, no hesitation. I told them to remove Erica from my policy. Since the SUV was in my name, the responsibility would fall to her now. If she wanted to keep driving it, she'd have to switch everything over to her own coverage, and she'd need to pick up the title transfer forms herself. I left her a short voicemail. No anger, no explanation, just the facts. "You'll need to cover your mortgage from now on. The car insurance is no longer under me. Call when you're ready to handle the paperwork." She didn't call back. But Madison did. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a long, dramatic text. She accused me of abandoning family, of making things worse, of pushing her mom to tears for 2 days straight. She even tossed in that she might have to quit cheerleading if things didn't improve, like that was supposed to move me. Not a single word about the reunion. Not a word about what she said in front of everyone. No apology, no accountability. Just guilt tripping. Just panic because, for the first time, they were being held responsible. I stared at that message, feeling a strange mix of anger and clarity. And I typed one sentence back, "Actions have consequences, Madison." That was it. No lecture, no bargaining. And the moment I hit send, I knew I'd done the right thing. Not just for myself, but for my boys. Because they needed to see that kindness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. That love doesn't mean endless sacrifice. Sometimes it means saying, enough. The house was quiet that week, until my phone rang. It was my mom. She wanted to talk things through. She said maybe I'd been too harsh. That Erica had been under pressure and just didn't know how to ask for help properly. I didn't answer right away. I let her fill the silence, because I already knew where this was going. Finally, I asked one simple question. "Did you know I was paying her mortgage?" Silence. Then a soft, "No." "Exactly." She tried again, suggesting maybe I could at least keep the car in my name a little longer. Maybe just help for a few more months. But I cut her off. I told her I'd been quietly supporting Erica for years, and no one noticed. The second I stopped, suddenly I was the villain. That's not how family works. At least not mine anymore. And then came the real twist. Erica didn't call me. She didn't even show up at my house. She went to Greg's office. My husband's office. As if somehow he'd be easier to manipulate. Greg called me afterward, and the first words out of his mouth were, "You're not going to believe this." She walked into his office uninvited, oversized sunglasses covering half her face, fake confidence oozing out of every step. She asked if she could have a quick word. Greg's not the type to throw anyone out, but he's also not the type to play along. So he let her talk. She started with tears. Said she didn't understand why I blindsided her in front of everyone. Said she felt humiliated. Said Madison hadn't spoken to her in 2 days, like that was somehow my fault. And then she got to the real reason she was there. The mortgage payment had bounced. Her account was overdrawn. The bank was calling. She said she was trying to hold things together for Madison's sake and maybe, if Greg could smooth things over between us, we could figure something out. That's when Greg leaned back in his chair and ended it. Calm, firm, no raised voice. He told her she needed to leave. That whatever conversation she thought she was about to have, she'd come to the wrong place, the wrong man, the wrong decade. She left without another word. But she didn't stay quiet. Hours later, I got a text. A long paragraph blaming me for driving a wedge into the family. For making Madison feel unsafe. For being cold after everything we'd supposedly been through. It was like watching her rewrite history in real time. Pretending I hadn't spent years bailing her out while she whispered behind my back that I was selfish. I didn't respond. I blocked her number that night. Madison went dark, too. No posts, no stories, nothing. For 2 whole days, her non-stop social media feed went silent. And then, a blurry selfie. Some cryptic caption about real ones never leave. I knew who it was aimed at. I didn't care. And just when I thought they'd fade into the background, the letter came. 2 pages. Handwritten. Folded neatly and slipped into my mailbox with no return address. It was from Erica. She wrote about reflecting. About maybe letting her pride get in the way. About maybe needing to say thank you more. But even in her so-called apology, there was an undertone. Like I'd overreacted. Like I could have handled it more privately. She begged me not to punish Madison for her mistakes. Asked me to reconsider letting them keep the car. Said they needed it to survive. I sat at my kitchen table, holding that letter, and for the first time in years I felt relief. Not guilt. Not anger. Relief. Because the weight I'd been carrying, the lies, the manipulation, the guilt, it was cracking. But here's the thing. I wasn't done yet. I gave them a week. 7 full days to come to their senses, to apologize, or at least show me an ounce of maturity. Instead, Erica sent that carefully worded, 2-page guilt trip of a letter, but never showed up in person. Madison? She didn't reach out directly, but her social media was buzzing with cryptic captions. Family can be the coldest. Some people only help so they can brag about it later. All noise. No ownership. No accountability. So I waited. Quietly. But deep down, I was done hoping they'd ever change. That's when I grabbed the spare key. The SUV sitting in Erica's driveway still legally belonged to me. I'd kept it in my name because her credit was a disaster, and back then, I didn't want her defaulting and dragging me down with her. Back then, I didn't think twice, I had the means, she needed help, so I did it. That's how it always started. But not anymore. Around noon on a Thursday, I drove straight to their house. No warning. I pulled up, parked the car right in front, and got out. I snapped pictures of everything, the mileage, the license plate, the condition of the vehicle. Then I locked the doors, slipped the key into an envelope, and taped a sticky note to it with one line, "It's yours when you pay for it." As I turned to leave, the front porch creaked. Madison stepped out barefoot, drowning in a hoodie with the sleeves pulled over her hands. She just stared at me. I braced myself for another smirk, another jab. But instead, her voice came out small, fragile. "Do you hate me?" It caught me off guard. For the first time, she didn't sound like the smug teenager who mocked me in front of 30 relatives. She sounded like a kid. I told her no. I didn't hate her. I hated how they treated me. I said it calmly, flat, then turned to walk away. And that's when Erica stormed out. Barefoot, too. Phone clutched in her hand, still mid-conversation with someone about overdraft fees and late notices. She froze when her eyes landed on me. And then she snapped. "Don't you dare walk away from this, Stacy. You ruined everything." But I didn't stop. I slid into my car, rolled the windows up, and drove off without a word. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel a shred of guilt. Not one bit. That night, close to midnight, my phone lit up with a string of messages from Madison. Long ones. At first, she apologized. Then she blamed me. Then she apologized again. She said her mom was falling apart, that the power company had called, that they might have to sell their TV. She said she didn't understand why I was being so cruel. Cruel. That word stuck in my chest. Like the years of quiet handouts, the bills paid, the gifts bought, the roof over their heads, that was nothing. Like me finally saying enough was some kind of betrayal. But the truth? I hadn't ruined a thing. I just stopped fixing what they kept breaking. The next morning, at 7:40 sharp, Greg shook me awake with his phone in his hand. "Listen to this," he said. It was a voicemail from Madison. Her voice was shaky, nothing like the cocky, sarcastic girl we were used to. She'd shown up at Greg's office, not to yell, not to guilt trip, she was begging for a job. Any job. Filing, cleaning, answering phones. She said she didn't care what it was, she just needed money. She admitted things at home were falling apart fast, that bills were piling up, that her mom was spiraling. I listened twice. And what struck me wasn't the desperation. It was what came next. She said there was something she needed to tell me. Something she hadn't said in front of anyone. Something about her mom. Greg texted her later that morning, told her to meet us at a diner near his office. Neutral ground. I wasn't ready to let her into our house. Not yet. She showed up 10 minutes early. Her hair brushed, hoodie swapped for an oversized blazer she probably borrowed. No makeup, just pale, exhausted eyes. I expected another performance. More manipulation. But what came out of her mouth wasn't that. She slid into the booth, glanced at me, and whispered, "I didn't know about the mortgage. Not until last week." I didn't respond. Greg crossed his arms, listening quietly. Madison explained everything. How Erica had lied to her for years. Told her everything was under control. Told her I paid because I wanted to, because I owed the family for doing better than everyone else. Madison never knew about the overdue bills, the bounced payments, the foreclosure letters. She didn't even know I'd paid for her cheerleading trip to Florida last year. She thought her mom had found a way. And then, after the reunion, she found the truth. Red letters in drawers. Final warnings. Notices stacked one after another. She looked straight at me and said, "I know it's not your fault. I just didn't know who to be mad at until now." That's when it hit me. Madison had been used just like me. Maybe not in the same way, but she'd been kept in the dark, manipulated, weaponized against me. Erica had twisted her into believing I was the villain while sinking both their lives behind her back. And then Madison reached into her bag. She pulled out a torn envelope and slid it across the table. Inside was a folded check, one I'd written over a year ago. $850. Memo line, groceries. I barely remembered writing it. She said she found it in her mom's drawer, along with a dozen others. All uncashed. Just sitting there. "I think she kept them," Madison whispered, "so she could use them later. To guilt you. To prove what you owed." That was the moment everything clicked. Erica had never planned on fixing anything. She didn't want help. She wanted leverage. And now? The whole truth was starting to surface. I slid the check back across the table toward Madison. My voice was calm, final. "I'm not hiring family anymore. If you want a job, apply somewhere else. On your own." She looked crushed. Her shoulders slumped, lips pressed tight, but she didn't argue. Just a quiet, "Yeah." I thought that was it, until we stood up to leave. That's when she hit me with something I didn't expect. "I don't think she's done," she whispered. "My mom. I think she's planning something." I froze. "What do you mean?" Madison stared at the pavement, hoodie sleeves twisted in her fists. "I heard her talking to Grandma. She's trying to turn the family against you. She said you've changed, that Greg controls you. She even said she might tell everyone you've been stealing money for years, that you're not as generous as you pretend to be." My chest went cold. Erica wasn't just spiraling, she was dragging my own mother into it. Poisoning the well, Madison called it. And she was right. Erica had been making calls all week. Spinning stories. Telling relatives I was flaunting my promotion. That I invented the payments to humiliate her. That Greg was pulling the strings. And the worst part? My mother was listening. I didn't want to believe it until the phone rang that night. "Mom." She started soft, asking about the boys, about work. I waited, knowing where this was headed. And then she said it. "Maybe you should have handled it privately, Stacy. Maybe you didn't need to humiliate your sister like that." That was it. That was the moment I knew. I asked her, flatly, "Do you remember who paid your rent last winter when your heat went out?" Silence. "Exactly," I said. "Erica wouldn't have survived the last 3 years without me. And the only reason she's angry now is because the free ride is over." She tried to interrupt, but I didn't let her. "You want to pick sides? Fine. Just don't come running to me when she drains your savings too." Then I hung up. The very next day, I went straight to the DMV and started the paperwork to repossess the SUV. Legally, it was mine. I'd given Erica enough time, enough chances, enough kindness. No more asking. 3 days later, the repo guy called. His voice was tense. "The car's gone. Not stolen. Worse. Erica had forged the paperwork, sold it under the table for quick cash." I filed the police report immediately. Sent in everything, photos, title, texts. The man she sold it to didn't fight when he found out. He returned the SUV without a word. But now? Erica was facing real legal consequences. And she knew exactly who put her there. Madison was the one who told me. She came to my office in tears, shaking. Said her mom was unraveling, screaming at everyone, blaming me for everything. Said the lights had been shut off that morning. No food in the fridge. And then Madison showed me something else. A notebook she'd found. Inside was a list. A sick little list titled, "Ways to Make Stacy Regret It." I read it twice. My stomach turned. Call HR at my job. Report Greg for financial abuse. Spread rumors about us both. That was the moment Greg stepped in. The very next morning, he drove to Erica's house alone. No yelling. No arguing. He simply handed her a typed letter. It said, any further harassment, slander, or communication would lead to a restraining order. Any attempt to involve our children, extended family, or workplace would trigger full legal action. She was officially banned from our property, our phones, our lives. Erica snatched the paper, slammed the door in his face. 2 days later, Mom called again. She parroted Erica's lies. Said I was suing my sister. Said I was ruining her life because I couldn't handle the truth. I cut her off cold. "Do you want to go next?" She didn't answer. I hung up. That was the last call I took. And here's how it ended. Erica and Madison moved out of their rental 2 months later. No one knows where they went. Madison eventually got a job at a pharmacy across town. She stopped posting online. My mother still lives alone. Quiet now. Careful. She knows where the line is. And me? I'm good. Better than good. My sons respect me more than ever. They saw firsthand what boundaries look like. Greg and I are stronger than we've ever been. I still keep that check Madison handed me back, the one Erica never cashed. It sits in my drawer, folded, faded. A reminder. They tried to paint me as the villain for doing too much. But they never imagined what would happen if I stopped. Now they know. And finally, they respect me. Not because I yelled. Not because I fought. But because I walked away.